Well, dramatic new video shows the mid-air confrontation between Russian fighter jets and an American surveillance drone near Ukraine.
The Defense Department released the video saying it shows jets buzzing by and dumping fuel on the drone. Eventually, one clips it, and it later crashed into the Black Sea. U.S. military officials say Russian ships have recovered some of the wreckage. Florida Republican Senator Marco Rubio told CBS News this incident shows the U.S. should increase its drone presence in the Black Sea.
Well, I think we should fly more of them. We shouldn't stop flying them. And in many cases, we should be prepared to scramble jets and respond if they are threatened by Russian aircraft.
Senior White House correspondent Weijia Jiang joins us now with more. So, Weijia, Senator Rubio says the U.S. should respond by sending in additional drones. Do we know more about how the Biden administration plans to address this incident?
Well, we know that for the first time in 5 months, the Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin had a phone call with his Russian counterpart after this incident to talk it through, because he said, that there is a risk of escalation that he did not want to take, and he wanted to make sure they could have a conversation so there wouldn't be any missteps. Because as you know, Elaine and Lana, the tensions between the U.S. and Russia are already running very high, given the state of the war in Ukraine. And so given, the sensitive nature of this and the fact that a U.S. aircraft has not been brought down in this way in so many decades, the military said it was important to talk it out and not so much talk about consequences, because there's a blame game going on here between Russia and the U.S., but rather to try to prevent this sort of collision from happening in the future.
Yeah, we heard General Milley yesterday say that the aggression was intentional, but wasn't sure if the actual crash was intentional. Tell us, what are Russian officials now claiming happened? What's their side of the story?
Well, they claim that this drone should not have been in that particular airspace to begin with, that it was a provocation, and the Russians are accusing the U.S. of trying to increase its spy operation. And, the U.S. is very clear on this, saying that they are not going to stop flying these unarmed drones because they have every right to be there in international airspace. Of course, the question is, whether that airspace is international or not, if you ask the Russians, and the dispute has been ongoing there. So the Russians claim that this was the U.S. Trying to gain more information to potentially share with Ukraine, which they are also saying is an escalation. And that is precisely why military officials wanted to be so careful and treat this in a very sensitive manner, so nothing did escalate to the next level.
Well, Poland has announced it plans to send Ukraine fighter jets in the near future. Has the White House responded to that?
That's right. President Duda made this announcement yesterday and said that those jets would be supplied in the next few days. So far, we have asked. The White House and the National Security Council has not weighed in on this, and we haven't heard from President Biden about it either. But the last time we talked about the U.S. sending fighter jets, the president said during an interview that the U.S. military assessed that Ukraine did not need them at this time. Of course, that's very different from what Ukraine's President Zelensky says. He has been asking for fighter jets from NATO countries for quite some time now. And so we expect to hear something today about Poland's decision and whether the U.S. will bolster it in any way. But certainly, to be clear, it is not the U.S. sending any jets at this time.
All right. Weijia, thank you.